Hello team, welcome back. And in previous lectures, we have seen the variable and we have seen how you can get and assign the variable. Today we will see what are the data collection objects are available in the Ansible and how you can use the collection object instead of the variable. So collection objects are helpful whenever you want to store the multiple values in a variable. Let's see what are the collection objects available in the Ansible and how you can use these collection options. So variable is used to store the single value, but the data collection or the data store is used to store the multiple values. Whenever you want to store the multiple values in a single variable, you need to use the data collections. In Ansible Playbook data collection, you can have the sequence data structure. It means you can define the values which are comma separated, and you can have the map data structure. It means you can define the values which are in the format of the map where you have the key and value. So we will see how we can define the data collections in Ansible Playbook and how you can use these data collection in Ansible. So let's go to the Ansible engine. So we are connected with the Ansible machine. I will clear out the console, go to the directory Ansible, and over here we will go to the virtual environment. So you can see you are inside the virtual environment. Let's clear out the console, put ll, and over here we have few directories like playbook intro. Let's create one more directory and I will call it mkdir basic underscore playbook. Now what we will do, we will create a file inside the basic underscore playbook. But before creating the file on your Linux machine, first let's create the file on your Visual Studio Code. So we will switch to the Visual Studio Code, and over here within the basic concept of the Ansible playbook folder, I will create a new file and call it Ansible data collection.yml. Let's copy the basic syntax from some other file so that we don't need to repeat the things again and again. So what we are doing, we are copying this section. You are defining the name of your playbook, right? And you can change this name, and this is an overview of the Ansible data collection. Rest part is same, we have discussed it multiple times, so we are not going to discuss it again and again. After this, what you can do, you can define your task. After this, what you can do, to define a variable you need to define the wheres in Ansible. Correct, we have discussed about it. Let's see, you are defining a xyz where, and in this where you are defining some string, hello, this is xyz, right? So over here what you are doing, you are basically defining a variable and you are assigning a value in that variable. If you want to access that variable, you need to define the task. So we will define the tasks. In the task, you can define the name of your task. This is data collection retrieval. Correct. Now you can define the debug module to get the value of your variable. So you can define the debug. Then over here you can define the where and define the variable name, which is xyz. This should be where, not wheres. So we have seen this much of thing. Correct. Over here we have a single variable and we are assigning a single value in that variable. We are accessing that particular variable over here. If you want to rerun it, I can copy this, go to your Ansible engine. In your Ansible engine, I can create a file vi basic playbook, and inside this directory I'm creating a file Ansible underscore data collection .xml, sorry, .yml. I will simply go to the insert mode, paste this file, exit from here, right? Provide the executable permission to your directory chmod 0755 -r and your directory which is basic playbook. Hit enter. Now you can directly execute your playbooks. Basic playbook ansible collection.yml. Hit enter, and we are getting some error. Seems the environment variable got removed, so we need to assign the environment variable again, which is the user key and the user secret. So I've exported the access key and access secret. I will clear out the console and then I will again execute the YAML file. You can see it will execute the fact first and then it is executing. your task, it is saying xyz, hello, this is xyz, correct? And over here we are getting the task name as well. We have seen that much of thing previously, but if we want to assign the multiple values to a single variable, how we can do that? So we will go to the Visual Studio Code again, and suppose I'm defining another variable over here called packages, right? And over here what I need to do, I need to define the multiple packages which I want to install on each of my Ansible client. So how you can define the multiple values in a variable? You can define that thing by a sequencing. To define the sequence, first you need to declare the square brackets, and within these square bracket you can define your comma separated values. So suppose we want to install some packages like wget, then we want to install the packages like unzip, then we want to install some packages like curl, we want to install some package like vim. So there are multiple values which you can assign in this particular variable, and how you can access these variables, right? So to access it, suppose we are defining the another task, so we are defining name. Let's put a space over here, define the name, getting sequence data collection, and call it f1, I mean to say function 1. Define debug over here, and define the where, define a variable name which is packages. This is the one way. One more thing, do we only have the option to define the sequence like this, or is there any other option as well? There's a one more option you can follow. You can define the variable, suppose you are defining the variable name like cities colon, hit enter. Now you can define the multiple values like this, like New York, London, Tokyo, Dubai, right? So you can define the values like this as well. You can copy your task, paste it here. I'm calling it getting data collection function 2, and instead of the packages, what I want to get this time, I want to get cities. So first sequencing we are defining this way, second sequencing we are defining this way. Over here in this task we are reading the first variable, over here in this task we are reading the second variable. Seems there is no tab, and they will be directly at the same level, and they will be present at this particular level where you have the variable, right? So we change the indentation of these values, and right now these values at the same level of the variable name, correct? I will copy this, go to my Ansible engine, edit your file, paste the latest content over here, correct? So we have the three variables. This is a single value, this is sequence but the format is this, and this is again a sequence but the format is like this. Copy your value, copy your YAML, clear out the console and execute your YAML. Hit enter, it is executing your YAML file, or it is executing your playbook, and see, both of the things are working. But over here you can notice that whenever you are retrieving the value, the format of the packages and the format of the city, they are same. Over here packages is a list, you can see, if you are familiar with Python, then this is a list, and the cities, this is again a list. If you are familiar with the Python, then this is a list. Although we defined the syntax in two different way, in the first variable we are taking it like this, in the second variable we are taking it like this, but whenever we are retrieving the values, they are retrieving in the same format. So this is the way how you can use the sequencing. So this sequencing is very helpful. You may assume that whenever you want to install a lot of packages, a series of packages which are prerequisite for your machine, you can define them like that, and in the playbook you can put a loop, and using that loop you can install all these packages. Right now we are not going for that way. Once we will learn about the loops, I will show you that how you can put the loops on your variables. Now let's define one more variable, and let's call this variable web underscore server, correct? So I told you that how you can define the sequencing. If you want to define the variable in a map, you need to define the curly braces, and over here you can define the variable in a map. So suppose you want to define the web server value. If the client If the Ansible client is a CentOS or the Linux, what you need to install? You need to install the httpd, comma. If the Ansible client is a Unix machine, what you need to install? You need to install the Apache 2. Correct. So over here you can see you are defining the two values. They are comma separated, but the values are in the key value format. This is the key, this is the value, this is the key, this is the value. You can use these kind of data collection whenever you want some kind of conditional formatting, right? So suppose you want to install the Apache. So if your operating system is a Linux based, then definitely you need to go with the httpd package. But if you are using the Unix based system, then you need to install this particular package for the Apache. So you need to find out the OS version of your machine. You can match that machine with this particular variable, and then you can install the service accordingly, right? So this is the another way. If you want to retrieve it, you can copy this, put it here, call it getting collection f3, and instead of the cities, let's define the web server. Save it, copy it, go to Ansible engine, edit your file, define the latest values over here. So we are defining the new task, we are defining the new variable. Save this, clear out your console, execute your playbook. You can see the playbook is executing and it's executed. This is the last task which you are getting. Here is your variable, and you can see you are getting the values in a dictionary format. So these are the two data collection options available in the Ansible. One is a sequence base, you can define like this or you can define like this, whatever you want. Second is the map base, you can define like this. So team, if you have any doubt, any question, you can let me know. Thank you team. See you next time.